Welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation to radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. Well, welcome back to the True Man Podcast. So delighted to have you along here for the ride. This is episode number 243. Wow. Who would have thunk it? Right here on the little old True Man Podcast, my way of making a difference in the world. So I've been spending a lot of time here over the last couple of weeks on the True Man Podcast, really talking about biblical masculinity and what it looks like to not just for you, for me. I want to help myself become the best man that I can be, but I want to help you develop your playbook, your way. So we just help define some of these things so that you can figure it out for yourself and really become your best version of you and help you become a very biblically masculine man. And that is what this podcast is all about. So as I hear from men, as I talk with them, I hear the stories, hear their stories and really their desire to have more in life. And the reality is we only have a short time here on Mother Earth, so we need to make the best of it, don't we? And so that's what this podcast is all about. Now, we are also putting the finishing touches on the website, AmericanFamilyRenaissance.org. Yes, you can get there via .com too. But AmericanFamilyRenaissance.org is actually online. It's available to see right now. And I want to encourage you to do that. Go out and check it out. You'll find True Man Coaching and the True Man Podcast also reside on that website. And I'm going to be talking, as you've heard me mention over the last few weeks, I'm going to be talking more about that transition that we're making to the American Family Renaissance. I just think it's critically important that we get back to family values in this country. And I want men to lead the way on that. You are the leaders of your family. So you go out, check out that website, and we'll talk more about that in the near future. This website is really a significant upgrade to the things that we have planned in the future. Some courses, the speaking, the men's summit that is coming up. And of course, you can sign up for the True Man Inner Circle, the weekly newsletter. We really had to go back and take a hard look at what we were doing. And this website is going to help facilitate that newsletter so much better with the things that we're doing. But you can go out, you can sign up for the newsletter. And when we get that thing up and going, we're going to get that thing right out to you in small bite-sized chunks with words of encouragement to keep you going and become the true man that you want to become on a weekly basis. All right, today I want to talk with you about 5 things that a godly man does differently than the world may tell you. And that's important because the world is throwing a lot at you, and that may, in fact, probably doesn't make you a godly man. So I want to tell you about a version of myself I'm not proud of, but personal stories I believe are important. You know, we all have a story. We all have things in our life. And it's important to not isolate or think that we're the only one. So there was a season in my life where I was doing all the right things on the outside, showing up, working hard, checking all the boxes that said, hey, here's a successful man. But I was miserable. Not in a dramatic, obvious way, in that quiet, suffocating way that men, we don't talk about until we get around the right group. The kind of man where you're sitting at the dinner table with your family and everything looks cool, everything looks fine, and inside you're just completely hollow. You're shot. And I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew something was. And the world had all the answers for me, right? Work harder, earn more, get more control, project more confidence, build a bigger life. So I tried that, right? Haven't we all tried that from time to time? And it made that hollow, it made the questions just made me feel worse. So here's what I eventually learned from all that and what I want to give you today. The world's instruction manual for being a man is written by people who don't know what a man is actually for. And when you build your life on the wrong blueprint, it doesn't matter how good the construction is, the whole thing is off. Today, we're going to talk about 5 things that a godly man does differently, not 5 things to add to your to-do list. I don't need to give you another to-do list. I'm sure yours is plenty long already. Just 5 fundamental shifts in how you think, how you move, and how you lead that separate a man who's building something real from a man who's just performing. You ready to go? Let's go. Number 1, he defines success differently. I believe a true man does. The world's definition of success for a man goes something like this: title, income, status, control. And look, I'm going to tell you, I'm not against ambition. You should have ambition. I'm not against building wealth. You should want money. I'm not against achievement. You should want to achieve. Hard work is biblical. Provision is biblical. Excellence is biblical. And here's the trap. When title, income, status, and control become the measure of your worth as a man, you have handed the scorecard to something that will never let you win. Because there's always someone with a bigger title, a larger income, more status, and more control. And the man chasing the scorecard and the scoreboard, well, they spend their entire lives feeling like they're one deal, one promotion, one win away from finally feeling like enough. I've sat with men who built everything the world said would make them feel like a man. And they were some of the loneliest, most spiritually hollow people that I've encountered. Big house, empty marriage. Kids they didn't even know. And calendars full of obligations and not a single relationship that actually cost them anything real. A godly man defines success. A true man defines success much differently. You see, he measures his life by faithfulness, not achievement, by the depth of his relationships, not the breadth of his resume, by whether the people closest to him are becoming more of who God created them to be, because he's in their corner. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. Man, I love Proverbs. So much wisdom. But chapter 16, verse 9 says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Now that verse is a posture, not a passive resignation. It's the posture of a man who plans, who works, who builds, and who holds it all loosely because he knows who's actually in charge. So here's the question I want you to sit with on this. If your income disappeared tomorrow, your title, your status, your position, who are you? What remains? And is that man somebody your family is proud of? Sit with those questions for a minute. That's not a question, or questions, I should say, designed to shake you. It's designed to show you where you're actually standing. Because the bottom line is, life is about getting results, is it not? See, a godly man knows who he is before the world tells him what he's worth. Number 2 for the day, he leads from strength, not from fear. You see, most men lead from fear and don't know it. I didn't know it for a long time. I thought I was leading from conviction, from vision, from strength. And then I started doing the honest work. The kind of work that happens in quiet moments when you stop defending yourself and actually look. And I saw it. I looked in the mirror. And what I found was I was leading from fear of failure. I didn't know how to win. I was afraid if I won, oh my gosh, then what do I do? Fear of what people would think, fear of losing control, fear of being exposed as someone who didn't have it all figured out. Do you know that guy? And fear, boy, fear is a brutal leader. It makes you controlling when you should be trusting. It makes you defensive when you should be humble. It makes you aggressive when you should be steady. And it makes you retreat when you should advance. See, the world's vision of masculine leadership tells you to project confidence above all else. Never let them see you sweat. Never admit you don't know. Never show weakness. Do you know what that produces? Men who can't be helped. Men who can't be corrected. Men who are so committed to projecting strength that they are completely unreachable to their wife, to their kids, to God. Who wants that? You see, a godly man leads from strength, but that strength has a source that the world doesn't understand. It's not the strength of having everything figured out. It's the strength that comes from knowing who you belong to, being honest about your limitations and moving away. Take a look at Moses. We talk about Moses quite a bit here on the True Man podcast, and why not? What an incredibly wise biblical figure. The man was not naturally eloquent. He told God directly, I am slow of speech and tongue. He had a past, 40 years of hiding in the desert after a murder. He had every reason to shrink from the call. And God's response was not, get your confidence up first, dude. It was, I will be with you. That is the source of all godly men's strength. Not his own competence, God's presence. So ask yourself and be honest here. What decisions am I making right now that are driven by fear of how I'll look? Fear of failure or fear of losing control rather than by faith and conviction? Name one, just one. Go ahead. How about right now? Just name it. Because the man who can name his fear has already begun to lead from somewhere stronger than that fear. Number 3, he pursues depth over image. Golly, we live in a world built on surfaces, don't we? Social media has turned image management into a full-time job. And many people are happy to take it on. And men who are already wired to perform, to project, to protect their reputation are some of the most susceptible people on the planet to the trap of image over substance. Now, I remember a specific moment. I was at an event, one of those rooms full of successful people, everyone networking, everybody performing their best version of themselves, and I was doing it too, saying the right things, giving the confident handshake, and laughing at the right moments. And I remember I drove home on that particular night, and I felt completely empty because nothing real had happened in that room. Not one honest conversation did I have on that particular night. Not one moment where anyone let their guard down long enough to actually be known. And I thought about, my grandfather on the way home, a man who never worked a room in his life, a man who told the truth, who worked hard, and people that grew up in a different era with all of their hard work. And why think about somebody like that? Because he was real. He was real. He worked hard. But you know what? Working hard has a depth to it. And that man had a depth to him. And depth is increasingly rare in this age because we want everything easy. You know, a godly man pursues depth over image in three arenas. In his faith, he doesn't just know about God, he actually talks to him. He's honest in prayer, not polished. He wrestles with doubt instead of performing certainty. His relationships with God are real, not curated. In his relationships, he has people who actually know him, not his highlight reel. His struggles, his failures, his fears, his hopes, they know it all. And he knows them in return. He invests in the people in his life with the same energy most men only reserve for their careers. In his own self-knowledge, he does the honest work of understanding himself. He knows his triggers. He knows his tendencies. He knows the stories he tells himself that aren't true. And he's willing to let those be challenged. So here's the question I want you to wrestle with. If the people in your life, your wife, your closest friend, your kids, described the real you, the private you, the man behind the performance, would they describe somebody they respect? Someone they trust? Someone that they actually know? Or would they describe a man they live with but don't really know? You see, depth is built in the ordinary moments, the honest conversations, the prayers nobody hears, the choices you make when nobody's watching. That's where the real man is. How about number 4 here on the 5 things a godly man does differently? Well, number 4 is he takes responsibility without conditions. So here's one of the clearest differences between a godly man and the version that the world produces. A godly man takes responsibility fully without conditions. Not, I'm sorry you felt that way. Not, I was wrong. But you have to understand the pressure I was under. Not, I take responsibility, but let me explain why it wasn't entirely my fault. Full responsibility, not an exit ramp. Now, let's face it, this is countercultural. You see, the world celebrates men who spin, deflect, manage perception, and control the narrative. They love it. And those skills in a courtroom, in a negotiation, might serve you well. I'm sure they do. But in a marriage, in a family, in a community, they will destroy trust slowly and completely. You see, I made the decision once that cost my family. I won't get into the details, but the financial and relational fallout was real. And my first instinct, if I'm honest, was to explain it. That's where I was at that point. To frame it, to make sure everyone understood the context so they wouldn't think less of me. Hey, I caught myself doing it and I stopped. And I instead said, I was wrong. I made a bad call. I'm sorry. Here's how I'm going to make it right. And that's what leaders do. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to say. It was also one of the most important. Because here's what taking responsibility actually does. It stops the bleeding. It restores trust faster than the explanation, and it models to your kids what a man actually does with failure. And it frees you from the exhausting work of trying to manage every doggone narrative in your life. So ask yourself this. Is there something right now in your marriage, your home, your relationships, where you owe someone a full, unconditional apology? Not a conversation, not an explanation, just, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Don't carry it around. I'm warning you. If something just came to mind, that is not an accident, friend. You see, the godly man doesn't wait for the perfect moment to take responsibility. He does it before the wound gets infected. And finally, on this list of the 5 things godly men do differently, he lives for legacy, not for comfort. You see, the world tells a man to optimize his life for comfort. And boy, oh boy, do we make it easy in this day and age. Work hard enough, long enough so you can finally relax, build enough, earn enough, achieve enough, and then coast. Make it to the weekend, make it to retirement, make it to the finish line. And comfort isn't evil. Rest is biblical for sure. Enjoyment is biblical. Sabbath is a command, not a suggestion. But comfort as the goal of a man's life, seems to me that'll hollow you out. Because men are not built for comfort. They are, in fact, built for mission. Think about the men you most respect. The one whose lives you look at and feel something stir you inside. Are they comfortable men? Or are they men who chose something hard? Something that cost them because they believe it mattered beyond themselves. I know what stirs in me. It's not the men who accumulated the most. It's the men who gave the most, who stayed when it would have been easier to leave, who built when it would have been easier to coast, who chose their family, their faith, their mission over and over when every comfort was pulling them toward the path of least resistance. You see, this is a man who's living for legacy. And here's the thing about legacy. You don't build it at the end. You build it in the ordinary decisions of the ordinary days right now, starting now, today. So the final question I want to leave you with is this. When your life is over, when your kids and your grandkids and the people who knew you gather and talk about the man you were, what do you want them to say? And is the life you're living today on track to produce that? You see, if there was a gap between those two answers, you need to close it. You need to start working on something. That dash in between all that. Starting this week, starting right now. That gap is the work. And I got to tell you, I believe in you, and I know you were built for it. So 5 things. Let's bring them back together here. A godly man defines success by faithfulness, not just achievement. He leads from strength, rooted in God's presence, not fear of exposure. He pursues depth over image in his faith, his relationships, and his self-knowledge. And he takes responsibility fully without conditions. And he lives for legacy over comfort. Now, none of these are natural. All of them are chosen. They are choices. And here's the thing. I want you to hear this before I close out today's podcast. You don't have to master all 5 today. You just need to get started. You just have to pick the one that convicted you the most, the one that made you felt something shift inside of you when I said it, and really bring it into your week. Just one honest conversation, just one apology you've been avoiding, one moment of real presence with your family, one prayer that tells God the truth about where you actually are right now. That's the move. Because you see, a true man doesn't wait until he's ready. He moves and he gets ready on the way. I'm all about being in movement and being in action. And friend, that is right there what we're talking about right here. By the way, in the middle of being in that action, you might slip up and make a mistake. Don't let that stop you. Don't let fear hold you back. Go out and be in action and be a godly man. You've got it. Go out and do it. If this podcast hit home with you today, share it with a man in your life. Please do me that honor. Do me that favor. All you have to do, you're probably listening to this on your phone app right now. All you have to do is share it with a man who you think may need to hear this message, or one of the many. I mean, goodness gracious, this is podcast 243. We got a lot of information out there. But thank you for joining me on the True Man Podcast. Always a pleasure to have you along for the ride. If you want to reach out to me, just drop me an email at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. And I love it when we get feedback on the podcast. What can I improve? What can I do better? I want to do this better for you. And I want to talk about things that you want to hear. So you're free to send me a message at any and all times. But just drop me an email at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. If you'd like to talk to me, you can go out to my website. My calendar is available. It's right out there, right on the website. And go check out AmericanFamilyRenaissance.org. Can't wait to tell you more about it and talk with you about it. But until then, and go out and do godly things this week. Go out and be the godly man you were called to be. And go out and make this your very, very best day ever. God bless you, and thank you for listening.